Dara Wawatie-Chabot Indigenous, Kirigan Zibi kaya Barrier Lake, Kindonjaba, Ottawa Indigida, Nungum, Manje Kikinom Agusian. So my name is Dara Wawatie-Chabot. So I'm like super like shy, like humble and stuff. I do powwowing, I do beadwork, I do all kinds of art. I learn medicines. I'm currently in the process of learning my language. Art and beadwork are really important parts of my life, especially beadwork. It's so powerful, it's so meaningful. It tells your stories. I'm from Kirigan-Zibi, Anishinaabe, and Barrier Lake, Quebec, but I grew up in Kirigan-Zibi. That's where I learned to bead, was from my mom. She never sat down and taught me either. I would just watch her a lot of the time and just pick up on how she would do things, what techniques she would use. And that's how she learned too, is from her mom. Just watching and learning and studying and paying attention, and it's like it's a calling, right? So you're not trying to force something that isn't meant to be. Somebody commented one time how cool it is that we have like 3 generations of beaders. That starts with my kukum, my mom, and then me, and then eventually, if I have children, maybe they'll be beaders too. And so I'm very grateful for that. But you know, you grow up in a reserve, and it's isolating.
My name is Gilbert White Duck, and I'm Anishinaabe from the Kitigan-Zibi Anishinaabe First Nation. I've always resided in the community. I spent all of my life working here. I had opportunities to go work elsewhere, in some cases better paying jobs, but I stayed because I believed in the community and what it was that I could contribute to the best of my ability while continuing to learn from elders, continuing to learn about myself, you know, ensuring that I was as well grounded as I could to where I belonged in this territory. Anishinaabe people from this territory, we went as far as what is today 3 Rivers. We bordered on the Crees up north, and for us, we went all the way to the Great Lakes and into the Nipissing area. That was our traditional territory. Our ancestors were seeing that our territories were being encroached upon. There were more and more settlers coming on, and there was a feeling, well, maybe we need to have one little piece of land that we're going to be able to call home. Our chief, Pakanawatik, petitioned the officials at the time for the creation of a reserve. This is still very much a postage stamp because this is only a small, minuscule piece of land from our territory.
We're not just existing the way that we did before, where we could return. We're not returning to anything. I think it's really hard because we have to live these 2 lives now.
The youth, I believe today, are being challenged even more than my generation because most are living in the urban centers and are not always having the connection directly to the community.
When I first moved to Ottawa, I was so astonished by all of the buildings and all of the infrastructure and all of the lights and all the people and the diversity. But like slowly it started to fade, and slowly that lost its sparkle, and I didn't like it anymore. But I was really struggling with being away from home and being away while struggling. Right, so I didn't feel like I had anybody. I didn't feel like I had anywhere. I felt so far away from just like my ancestors and everybody, and I knew that they were there, but I was still so young, and so I didn't really understand all of that.
Even when people tried to integrate mainstream, they had great difficulty because they encountered racism of all kinds. So it's impacted youth who have had to try to figure out, how do I maneuver in that society? And what do I want to retain from that settler society What do I want to incorporate into my life? How will I incorporate the teachings that I have? How do I find balance in all of that? And can I find balance if I spend all of my life in an urban center?
And I just used to wonder all the time, so what did Ottawa look like before all of this creation by destruction? What hills were there? What trees were there? What paths were there? How did the rivers naturally flow? What did the earth look like when my ancestors were walking on it? So I always felt this really big divide.
Ottawa was a meeting place. Archaeological work has shown that there were people gathering there for over 2,000 years. And the gathering would take place in the summer. So of course, people would come down the river and they would meet with each other, they would trade with each other, they would talk about the territory, whether or not the game was good or not. Near the Museum of History, where it's located, there's an ancient cemetery there that dates back thousands of years. One can only speculate that as people were going up the river, they would stop there and put offerings to their deceased loved ones. But it's very ancient. A lot of people don't know that. The Gatineau Hills are another, very important, the Gatineau Hills, because if you've ever gone to the Gatineau Hills, you can see far and wide the river flowing and the connection to the water being sacred, of course. So it was a sacred place.
It's a little bit tough when your art is what's sustaining you and your family. It's all done like on sustenance, right? So you get, and then you go and buy more, and then you sell it, and then you go and buy more, and you sell it. So it's just this cycle of creating and selling. So it has a little bit of a different meaning to some people, especially if you're just doing it to survive.
We were forced, literally, to retreat back to what the government wanted, and that was to put us on reserve, to assimilate, to terminate. The goal was to terminate who we were so that we would lose contact with the land, and therefore the settlers would have access to all of the land because they would say there's no one there. So if nobody's using it, we are, and that's what happened with Ottawa. We're not viewed in a way, it's not an issue of equality, but not even viewed at times as being human, that people can do things to us that are just unacceptable, would be unacceptable on the outside, but seems to be okay when it occurs to us.
I think that residential schools affected community first and foremost through the women. When you take away someone's child, that does irreversible damage. When you take a child away from their parent, and especially their mother, that does irreversible damage. Residential schools is such a fresh wound still. It's not something that, people have even begun to, get over. Like, a lot of people are just starting their healing journeys, if at all. And so we need to be patient with that.
Canada was built, I believe, on the backs of all Indigenous people, and in our case, because Ottawa is the capital, on the backs of the Anishinaabe people without the recognition, let alone involvement, was even there. And that's the case today. That's the unfortunate thing. Whether that's racism or whatever we want to call it, it still exists. It existed then because, we were never good enough. There was a belief that we weren't good enough to fit into all of that, and that is most unfortunate.
In the residential schools, they took away a lot of our values too, and a lot of those values are what holds community together. Love, respect, appreciation, honesty. It's really hard to focus in on those values and to really practice them every day if you live in a society like that we live in right now, where it's so individualized and so fast-paced that everybody's just going. You don't have time to step back and say, am I doing these things? Am I working? Am I living in a good way? And am I really living by all of these values that I say I value?
Reconciliation is, first of all, recognizing, not just saying that this is Algonquin and Anishinaabe territory, but really doing something significant. For me, it comes down to respect. And I feel certainly in a lot of my dealings with government in the past and whatnot, that respect is not there.
I often question myself. And this is something I think about a lot lately is it all worth it? You know? And what should we be proud for? That we survived? Because our survival comes with constant struggle, and you can't escape it. Even if you think you've escaped it, you can't escape it, and it's something that follows you. That's what colonialism is. It's this very abstract thing that it plays out in real ways, and it impacts us in real ways. It gets into your mind as well, and so it makes you question yourself. It makes you doubt yourself. It makes you think you're of lesser value than you are.
Even when you're at your lowest point in your life, for whatever reason, whether you're involved with alcohol and substances, never forget who you are and that connection that you have, that uniqueness that you carry, that strength you carry from the ancestors, from the kokums and the mushums and whatnot, that we carry that inside of us. And when we connect to that, how energizing that is. We come from Creator, a spirit that was put into us. It comes from nowhere else.
Some of the hardest points in my life I had to go through. Beadwork was how I pulled myself out of it. For my 3 hair pieces, I had like portions of a sun, and I beaded those, and I didn't think anything of it. That was just the design that I wanted to do. It just came to me that way, and I just beaded that through what I was going through. When I started my chest piece, I included that portion of the sun as well. And then, so I just started beading and beading and beading, and then together all the sections formed a whole sun. And I didn't plan that, it just happened that way. So I really do believe that beadwork, for me anyways, in my life, is it's a really good medicine, and it helps me heal, helps me get through those hard times when I feel hopeless.
At my stage right now in my life, I've said that my role now is to support you. My role now is to share whatever history I know about the community, about the Algonquin Nation, about archaeological work, whatever, because I believe youth can take that and learn from others and push things even further that we may have brought it, certainly in my time.
But something that constantly keeps me going, something that pushes me through these dark times and makes me look to the brighter times, is that we are still here. It's so simple, and sometimes you question it. I think of where we are now, and I think, well, where are they going to be in 50 years? What are they going to be fighting against in 50 years? And how is that going to be different from what we're fighting against now? And I think back 50 years, and they're probably thinking the exact same thing, except they couldn't dance, they couldn't vote, they couldn't sing, they couldn't be together, they couldn't raise their children. And we still face a lot of those same issues today, but what we have right now, our ancestors struggled for that for so long.
As we also disappear from the scene and go into the spirit world, and for young generation too, when you've grown old and become an elder and gone on to the spirit world also, that those youth down the line are going to look back. I'm hoping they're going to say, you know what, those youth stood up, had a strong voice, came together and made a difference.
I think everybody lives through struggle, but for an Indigenous person, it's a very community-based struggle, something that we can all relate to without having to say anything. For me, community support just means that there's people around who care about you, who have you in their thoughts, who pray for you, who send you positive energy, and they try and take away some of that bad energy. There's a give and there's a take. You're giving. You're always giving to take care of the people you love.
Where's Gilbert Waita? He is going to welcome us to this Algonquin territory.
I was involved, like many other people, in the Idle No More movement. And in that crowd, the vast majority that I saw were young, Indigenous women. I heard young women really take a leadership role that they justly should always have had. And I felt, and I continue to feel, that was powerful, so powerful. And that made me so proud. And that's why when I look at you today, I see tremendous opportunity and possibility.
As a shy Anishinaabe woman, I found my voice by the other women around me. Different women from parts all over Canada. They're leaders. And I said, how do you do this? How do you be proud of yourself? How do you speak up when you feel like you don't have a voice and you feel so powerless and so hopeless? They said, look inside of you and see what you have. What strengths do you carry? What interests do you have? What are you passionate about? So you find that and you follow it. I had to stop telling myself, I can't do it. I'll let the next person do it. If you have something important to say and your heart is beating and you feel yourself getting red and you really want to say it, you just have to say it. Slowly, it gets easier. So if you're going to say something, you have to believe it.
I recall sitting with a group of elders at one point one summer, and I said, I need to ask you guys. There was a few women, but mostly men. I said, you guys are never angry. Me, I'm angry all the time. I want to shake everybody up. I'm tired of it, you know? And all of a sudden, there was total silence. And here I am. Will I get an answer? What's going on? I need an answer. Why aren't you telling me? One elder turned to me and said, if you carry anger in your heart, your message will never get through. Be affirmative, be direct, be respectful, but never allow anger to dominate the words that you're going to use. I've tried to the best of my ability to follow that teaching because I think it is correct.
I think within all the struggle, the most beautiful part of it is that we are healing, despite all of these things that are holding us back and trying to keep us there. A lot of the healing that I've seen in our communities and in our families is just through talking. And so people call that sharing circles sometimes, healing circles, there's different names for them. You're just talking about your experiences, about your feelings, about your day. You're going through each person that's there and they're releasing what they have to share. And it's so powerful. You don't get that in this Western world a lot of the time. It creates that medicine, you know, that lets things go up and then you just air it out and then you just release it.
One last thing that I think really stood out and stands out for me now and different young people I meet, and that's love. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it in young people. I feel it. We have to feed that love. When we come to understand more deeply what love really means and how we can carry it to allow us to overcome some of the most difficult situations when we carry that love, and I just sit back, you know, and just say, wow.
Our people were never like stuck in one place, though. We were always developing and changing and growing, and so you can see that in the artwork too, and I think it's so beautiful. I'm on the path that I'm supposed to be on. This is my land. This is Anishinaabe Aki. This is Algonquin territory. I'm still where my ancestors walked, and you can feel it if you try. That's where I find the beauty in the struggle. Miigwech kije manado onje kakanakego. Miigwech onje kizis, jibi kizis, kaya kakana nongushak. Miigwech onje nimishomis, ningokomis kakana nidodemak, kakana niwijiwaganak. Miigwech onje nibi aki ishkode norden. Miigwech onje nibimadzuin. Miigwech onje nimino manadozuin. Miigwech.